All right, our number 5 safety in college football is the reigning Nagurski Award winner, which is given to the best defensive player in college football. So you might hear that and say, how on earth is this guy number 5 in your rankings? Well, we'll get into some of his negatives a little bit later, Dalton. But it is Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. What made him the defensive player of the year in college football last year, and what are some of the strengths of his game?
Well, the obvious one is that he led the country in interceptions with 7, right? He's a ball hawk, and from a free safety spot, like Notre Dame at every other position has guys who are really fundamentally sound. They're great tacklers, they're shut down corners, they do all those things. Xavier Watts is the one guy that forced turnovers, right? 7 interceptions, 3 pass breakups last year, a forced fumble to go with it against USC. He's like one of those classic find see ball, get ball free safeties, right? He can play single high, he can play too high. He's really aggressive in the run game, maybe sometimes too aggressive, but you can't question the attitude and the effort and the ball hawking skills that he brings to Notre Dame's secondary, right? And if they're going to force turnovers instead of just being like a really good kind of grind you down defense, it's because of Xavier Watts. So he has a very, very important role in this defense, but that's what makes him so good is his athleticism, his 98.6 PFF gas score, obviously incredibly high, and his ball skills, right? Those are the two things. He wants to find the football, right? He will do anything he can to turn the ball over and make a game-changing play for the defense.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned 98.6 last year, 99.6 the year before. So 2 straight years of being an elite athlete on the football field. Anyone who doesn't know, our gas score measures your speed, agility, change of direction, a lot of things on the football field. So and compares them to other players. Wow, voice crack right there. Compares them to other players at that position. And Xavier Watts was like 99th percentile for safeties, which is obviously a freak of an athlete. You mentioned the interceptions, man. He didn't allow a single touchdown into his coverage either, which I thought was pretty impressive in coverage. 37.8 passer rating allowed last year, which was 8th best by a Power 5 safety. So, you mentioned the coverage ability, the ability to make plays in the football. He really won that USC, and that USC, they dominated USC in that game, but a big reason for that was because of Xavier Watts, man. He was all over the field and causing Caleb Williams a lot of problems in that game, which is why ultimately he won Defensive Player of the Year in college football, was because just how many turnovers he caused for Notre Dame's defense. Dalton, now, why is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, why is he number 5 at his own position? When I'm sure some Notre Dame fans will say, hey, he might be the number 5 player in the country, regardless of position, but why are we a little bit lower on Xavier Watts right now?
Right. So there's 2 things for me. One, PFF grades are not just all about your highlights, right? Like, obviously, his 10 to 15 best plays are as good as anybody, but it's about consistency, and we grade every single play, right? So if you're wondering why the grades are a little bit lower, that's why. Now, the reasoning behind it from a player standpoint is discipline. He brings that 100-mile-an-hour motor to everything he does. He constantly wants to force a turnover, and he constantly wants to make a huge play, right? It's kind of like the home run hitter in baseball that hits 210, right? It's like he's just so over aggressive at times, especially in the run game for sure, with some of his angles. He's trying to lay big hits on people where then it gets away from him a little bit, right? Even in coverage sometimes where, if you're opting every single play in coverage to try to swat at the ball, try to get the pass defense, try to, make the turnover, sometimes you're going to get a bad angle. Sometimes you're going to get beat to the spot, right? And then that's when big plays happen. So it's kind of that thing where you've got a guy that's a home run hitter, right? But he doesn't always make contact. He's not going to hit 320, right? In a football sense, for a safety, this is how this works, is that on a play-to-play consistency basis, he's not going to grade out as the best player in the country, right? We've had safeties in the NFL. I think about Trayvon Diggs like this, right? Where some people people have gotten on us where it's like, well, why is he not like the best corner in football when he led the league in picks the one year and all this? Well, down to down, it's not the most consistent thing ever. When you're constantly gambling, sometimes you're going to lose, and that's where Xavier Watts the inconsistency comes in. If he found a little more discipline, play to play, and not, going for the home run every single play, the grades would be higher. There's a role for him, absolutely. He's a great player. It's just that he takes his chances, and you win some and you lose some.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even the PFF grades would say he should be a lot lower on this list, but we recognize like, hey, this guy is making a lot of plays in the football, and we put him a little bit higher here. I think it's a great breakdown, Dawn, honestly. And I think as a lifelong gambler, I can tell you that yeah, you will be losing a lot if you gamble all the time. So Xavier Watts is a little bit like that on the football field, at least in that respect. He's an elite athlete, you mentioned before, but sometimes it got away from him, man. It seems like he's almost too athletic out there in run defense, man. He had a 62.5 run defense grade last year. He missed 18% of his tackle attempts. 18%, almost 1 out of every 5 times he went for a tackle, he missed it. That actually was in the 8th percentile for safeties in 2023. So a lot of work to do as a run defender. Now, I think the effort is there. He's not like a Kalen Bullock, for example, from USC, where Bullock was a liability as a run defender, but because the physicality just wasn't there in his game. Watts has it. It's just, like you mentioned, the discipline is just not there yet. So I think if he improves his technique as a tackler and plays a little bit more under control in run defense, he could really take his game to the next level. Because I do think in coverage, yeah, there are plays where he misses because he's too aggressive, but also like he makes enough plays in coverage. He was good enough all around in coverage, and he's pretty good in coverage already. But I think the biggest thing for me was the run defense was kind of a mess for him last year, and why ultimately he's a little bit lower for both of us on this list. But still, the reigning Bronco Nagurski Award winner, Xavier Watts, still deserves to be a top 5 safety in the country for how many plays he makes on the football. Let us know in the comments below what you think about his game, whether or not we're too low on him. Let us know in the comments below and subscribe to the channel for more videos coming out around the 2024 college football season.